a member inactive if they're no longer with the agency.
Oh, so it's like they're a secondary member of the agency?
That's correct.
All right. Let me share my screen. Okay, I'm not sure they have any that are secondary. Let me just make sure. Be good to know that, huh?
Is that something we need to make sure that they're secondaries, or if they're a primary?
Well, the
Do we have?
process is different depending on whether they're primary or secondary.
I
So
don't.
if they're secondary members, then you're going to go to the primary members record. And can you see here it says secondary? It says secondary level.
Yes.
So this is a secondary member. So if you click on this icon, it's going to take you to the primary members record. So then you go to the primary member, you go to additional members in their account, and you're going to remove them from the account. Oh boy, my screen's jumping. But basically, you're going to remove them from the account. And when you do that, it's going to spin them off to become their own primary member.
Okay.
That makes sense?
I guess.
And then once they're their primary member, you can determine if you need to drop them as if they're no longer.
I don't think we should ever drop anybody because of the history. What if they come back? What if they come back to another agency and they're still?
Yep, and that's perfectly fine. So you can leave them as active members because they would become primary level members and be active, and that's fine. Or you can expire them, if they haven't joined another agency yet, or if they're in the middle of transitioning. Or you can just leave them. That's perfectly fine too. So just depends on, if you're aware that they're moving to another agency that is also members of your chapter, then yeah, I would just leave them. And then when they get to the new agency, they can log in and they can just update their information. Or also if you have, primary, secondary agency membership set up with the new agency, then you'll just go into member options, go to level changes, and then link the solo member to whatever the new primary member is going to be.
Okay. And then the other issue I'm having is when we did our data upload, I don't know what happened, but I have one agency that paid for next year's membership. So I have to, I guess, renew their membership because they're only showing at 23 is their expiration date. But I would have to comp that money because they've already paid it.
Don't even mess with that. Just go into the primary members record for that agency, go to member type expiration join date, and change their expiration date to 2024.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
So go into the primary member.
Yep. Because the primary dictates the membership and the expiration dates and all that.
Change expiration date. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I'm trying to get the city of Pompano Beach to come up, and you think I get frustrated because I'm not sure if I'm not searching right.
Which chapter are you with?
Southeast Florida chapter. We just came.
SEFL, right? SEFL?
Yes, there they go. Okay. So I have one member, Gomez. There he is. So I have to go to the primary vendor. Click name.
What is your domain?
NIGPSEFL.org.
I had it backwards.
So I have one member that is no longer with the agency.
And that's with Pompano?
Yes, Pompano Beach.
Oops. Company name, that's what we want.
Right. And the gentleman is Gomez. He is, or her.
Oh,
Annabelle.
They're all primary members anyway, so you don't have to mess with taking them out.
Okay, so then how do I mark them inactive?
Oh, well, then you can just click on the word active and change it to expire. You could force them to expire, or you could drop them. If you drop them, then, you
Do
know,
they, if I drop them, they will save them, but we won't lose the member, but.
Correct. But when they join their new organization,
Mhm.
then you can reactivate them.
So what's the better option? Freeze, drop, or expire?
Freeze is only used when somebody has violated the bylaws or your rules or something, and
Okay.
they need to make amends before you release their membership
Mhm.
again. Drop is basically they're unlikely to become active members again, so you drop them and then you retain all their history, but it's usually they move out of the area or
Mhm.
they've passed away or
Mhm.
some other reason that they're unlikely to ever become active again.
So always mark
Um,
them expired.
so expired is probably a good option in this case, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna mark them expired. He's gonna go, he's just not gonna show up anymore on there.
Yeah, he's not going to be an active member anymore, right?
Okay.
But his contact information doesn't change. So when he goes to the new agency, and if he has, if you decide to reactivate him with the new agency, he can go in and just edit his information and change to the new agency. So none of that history is lost, like, from the points tracking and all of that other stuff. It just goes with him. That makes
John,
sense?
did you have a question?
Yeah, it's in regards to this. It's not. It's somebody that registered as a non-member. They tried to register as a non-member, but they actually registered as a member. Is dropping them or expiring the best way to handle that?
You have to drop them. Once you drop them, then you'll go back to this their status and it'll say dropped, and you'll click on it and you'll see a new option that says convert to non-member.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. But they have to be dropped before they can be converted to a non-member.
Michael, did you have any other questions? Those were all your questions?
Who, me?
Mike, no.
the other Mike.
Yeah, the other
Okay.
Michael.
Is my mic off? Can you hear me now?
Yep,
can, yeah.
yep, we can hear
Okay.
you.
So I went to the city of Boca. These are the ones where I have to change their expiration date to 24. And they're all listed as primaries.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to change them individually.
And that's fine, but where do I do that at?
So you're gonna click on the pencil to go into their profile,
Okay,
then member type, expiration, join date,
there you go.
change it to 24, and then
Okay.
hit save. Can I do it for this person?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
And then I'll do it for the other ones.
Yep. And then if you look down, now they're 2024 and they're no longer in the renewal cycle.
Okay, excellent. Thank you
Yep.
so much. I was just making sure that I was getting it right.
Sure. Yep.
I appreciate it. Sorry for taking up so much time.
No problem at all. This is what this is for.
I've got a question, Michael.
Yeah.
So we've got an agency that is looking to register as new members. They've got about 20 people that they want to register. What's the best way to accomplish that? I mean, do they need to go on and register the 20 people first and then we put them together as the agency?
If
Or
I
can
were
we
you, I would
register?
have them. No, if I were you, if they're truly going to be an agency where they're having a primary with everybody else being secondary, then I would have them do the work. And then so basically the primary member starts the registration. And when they get to a certain point, they can add all the other members that are going to be part of that agency.
Okay.
Which chapter are you with?
Iowa? IPPA.
And what's your
IPPA? Yep.
There it is. So agencies, you said they have what, 20 members?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you're set to currently, is that maximum of 20 members. So yeah, they can certainly do that themselves. They when
So how
they
does that work then
Yeah.
when they start adding people? Because I guess I kind of started to go through the process to see if I could figure it out. And you add like their first and last name, but does something get sent then to the individual they're adding so that they can add all that other additional information?
this is this is the preferred way to handle it. Okay, so I just logged out, so I'm here as a brand new member. I
Yep.
just chose agency as the member type. I click next, agree to all this junk, blah blah blah. You know what? I'm going to have to fill out a lot of information to get this to work. But
Sure.
basically, when you get to it's either step 4, step 5, that's where you're going to add those additional members and the additional members' email addresses, and then they will be sent their login credentials
Okay.
so that they can log in themselves.
Okay.
As long as they have the email address of the member.
Right. Okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Can you remind me a couple of things? So on the contact us there in the upper right hand corner, when someone fills out this form at the bottom, where
Yep.
does that go?
If it's the general, if they say send it to general information, it's going to go to the default email address. Let's go see what the default email address is. It's under control panel, chapter, name and description. It is phone, fax, and email. So it's going to go to carlwent@iowa.gov.
Okay. Someone said they'd filled it out, but we hadn't gotten a response, so we just weren't confident where it went. So, okay.
If they chose one of the other options, one of the other drop downs, like they can choose one of these, then it would have been sent to
Oh.
whichever one is
Okay.
here. So
Okay.
secretary at, treasurer at, Yvette,
Okay.
whoever.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then can you also remind me, I apparently have missed it, so I apologize. When we record these sessions, where are they being posted?
I
Ronnie, do you know
I
where they're being
post
posted?
them on, yeah, I post them on YouTube, so I can send you out the link to the YouTube channel.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yep. Yep, sure.
Can you include Michael Durden on that email too, please?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
As a
Yeah.
disclaimer, we forgot to record some of the sessions.
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
And by we, I mean me.
You don't have everything. Yeah.
But I was
Right.
trying to find
Been-
something from last time, and I'm like, I could not remember where it was. So no problem.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you
will
though.
absolutely send it to you. Yep. Sean, you had a question?
Yeah, this is a question about an event. I'm with the Central Florida chapter, and we have an event that's for vendors only, so non-members, CFC and NIGP.
Yeah.
And you don't want to sign in.
I don't want to sign in. Okay.
No, yeah, don't sign in. If you go to the homepage or our upcoming events for November 8th, the vendor CFC reverse trade show.
Okay.
So I had to, like, I included the part in red where it says you don't want to be a member on the website. But
Cool.
when a vendor clicks on the register now button, there's a portion, the portion right there that says, are you a member of CFC? Log in to register. So when they do that, they started to register, like vendors started to register as members, and then they couldn't actually register for the event because it's non-members only that register for
Sure.
the event.
Yeah.
I've had to turn off membership basically right now because they kept registering, and because of credit card fees, we were basically losing money to refund them.
Yeah.
Is there a better way to handle that than just turning off registration? Because now new people coming in, admin are having to register.
Let me take a look. Oh, that's not the one. Let me go back to that one. Vendor. Instead of it being visible to everyone, can we, if we change it to, see, you can't do it for non-members. Oh, that's, I see the dilemma.
Like, it would be nice to just be able to remove that portion where it asks if you're a member, because
Yeah, and we have no way of removing that. That's the thing that kind of stinks. If I click on, this is the one, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
Oops, spelling. Nope, that's not going to work. Nope, I don't think there's a way we're going to be able to do it. I know others have wanted that to go away as well, and right now there just isn't. So I would, you did a good job by making it, red and telling them do not sign up as a member.
Yeah, I mean, we had like 6 or 7 people sign up before I added that, and then after I added that, we've had 4. So then I just deactivated membership altogether.
Yeah. Which is a pain because now you're not being able to sign, you can't sign up members.
Right, like only I mean, I've been signing up members myself. Basically, I just create the account and send them the email, but
Right.
they can't sign themselves up. And I found that I think people just click on register now, but they're not actually reading a lot of this information.
Heck no.
And I wasn't. I tried to add this red box to the registration page, but there's no way to add anything to that.
Try this and see how that works. Think they might catch that?
I hope so.
If not, I mean, we can add some more highlights to it, put flashing, what are they, call outs or something around it. But, you're right. Sometimes people just, they're in a hurry, so they blow by everything that's important.
Right. Is there a different way to handle new membership registration where it's
Well,
kind of on a
if the problem is that then they're going to continue to, I guess they can't register for the event.
right? Because once they sign in as a member, they can't register for the event anymore.
Yep, right. Yeah. Yeah, see, it's messy because they sign up, they incur a transaction, even if approval is required, they still have that transaction. So you can decline them, but decline them and drop them and then delete the transaction. But they really need to just pay attention, and because there's no way to prevent them from doing what they're doing, I guess is the short way to say it.
Right.
Here, I'll try it like this because we can try that and just see. But yeah, there's no way to prevent it, unfortunately.
Okay.
Unless you do like you did, which is to turn off new membership, but that's causes its own problems.
Yeah, I mean, we're not getting a lot of membership because it's like new members only are only valid until the end of December. So a lot of people don't want to pay for the new membership, but a couple people do.
Did you know, and this is kind of for everybody on the call, that you can set a grace period where if somebody signs up as a new member at the end of a year, of the end of a membership year, you can give them a couple of months of membership and basically register them to the end of the next year. So for example, if somebody signs up as a new member October 5th and you have 3 months grace period, then they get the remaining part of this year and all of next year with their membership dues. But you can determine how many months that grace period is. A lot of organizations will do 2 months, some will do 3 months. But that kind of, encourages people to sign up now, strike while the iron's hot.
Right.
So that you get them to sign up, and then they get the rest of this year and all of next year as with their membership dues.
Can you show us where that option is?
Yep, it's under renewal expiration settings. And it's right here. Do you offer a grace period if someone joins a club before the start of the renewal period? And you would just say yes, and then select the number of months that you would allow them to have at the end of the membership year.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question about that really fast?
Yeah.
If you don't have like a standard, everybody's memberships renew on the same day, how does the grace period work?
It
In
doesn't,
that
because they're rolling
situation.
renewals. Yeah, so it doesn't, because
Okay.
there's no, because everybody renewals based on their join date or their payment date, depending on how it's set.
Okay, so like if one agency is renewing in March and another one is renewing in June, they're not necessarily going to get those grace period windows. It kind of only works if everybody's on the same schedule.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Does anyone else have another question?
I have another question actually. This is regarding Stripe.
Yeah.
We have it set up where it just sends the information from Club Express when a transaction happens to Stripe, but it's not, there's no like reporting. There's only some reporting information on Club Express. I think when we initially got the website, we had talked about there's an additional connection you can make with Stripe on Club Express, and it uses the Club Express transactions rather than, I'm not sure how to set that up.
I'm not sure what you're referring to. If we are you with Central Florida?
Yeah, Central Florida.
Okay, so I mean, we're using the Stripe account, right?
Yeah. But
And
I guess what I'm referring to is the transaction fees are handled by Stripe. But I think there was mention that Club Express can handle the transaction and include the fee so that the exports, like the transaction export reports that you can get from Club Express, include those fees. Because right now I have to go to stripe.com in order to get any report information.
And that's purely because I'm just verifying this. Yeah, you have your own Stripe account. In order to have Club Express handle the fees and then get reports on the fees, then you have to use the Club Express Stripe account. That would require disconnecting your current Stripe account and getting an account with Club Express.
Okay. Is there an additional cost to do that?
There's not, no. No, and the rates should be very similar. The rates, we post them on clubexpress.com. If we go to pricing and then where was it? Merchant processing. And then you get the fees are right here, 2.99% plus 20%. So I don't know how that compares to what rates you're paying now.
I think we're just paying a percentage. I think it's 4%, so we're not paying the 20 cents.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you decide you want to go to that point, then it's easy enough. You just email merchantaccount@clubexpress.com, or you can email it to me and I'll forward it over to them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Michael?
I should say that the drawback, there's a pro and con to everything, right? The drawback with using the Club Express merchant account is that we remit the fees to your bank only 3 times a month. That's the 10th, the 20th, and the last business day of the month. Whereas when you have your own Stripe account, the fees or the remittances are happening, roughly every day, right? If you have payments every day. So that's kind of the drawback.
Yeah. You can set it up to be every day, or once a week, or once a month, I think.
Okay.
So do you mean like the transaction fee is taken out of the amount that's put in, like if $40 is put into the bank account, the transaction fee isn't taken out until a month later or 3 months later, or whenever it's processed?
See, that keeps changing. Sometimes it had been where we were just depositing the net amount or remitting the net amount. So if it was $40, we'd subtract our 3%, and we'd submit, what was it, 39.67 or whatever it is.
Right.
And then, and then we'd have reports that would show what was held back for the fees. But I think now it might be optional where you can have it taken out and just have the net deposit amount, or you can have it all deposited and then taken out
As a lump sum.
as a lump. Yeah.
Interesting.
I know it's been going back and forth lately, so I don't remember which one is the current process or if they're both available.
Another question. I'll be honest, I haven't done a new member or yet. And is there a video that shows you how to do a new member?
If you go into People Manager and if you click on this question mark in the upper right corner,
Mm-hmm.
then you can actually go through and here's videos right here on the right-hand side.
Ah, okay.
You click on that and it'll be, like managing payments. This is managing members. So this is all about People Manager here. So there's a lot of videos out here that you can kind of pour through. It's can be quite time consuming. You could go through a real down the rabbit hole looking at all these videos, but I think the most important one would be People Manager. Yeah, that's probably the best one.
Okay. All right. Then I'll do that.
Okay.
Does anyone else have a question for Michael?
Yeah, I do. This is Dawn with the local Georgia chapter of NIGP. And what is the best way? We have one primary and two secondaries. The primary is just an office manager who's not going to attend any of the NIGP meetings, but is going to pay for these other secondary members to attend events.
Mhm.
So am I better off removing the primary, making one of the secondaries the primary and just eliminating the primary altogether? Or making the other two primaries? I mean, I don't know what's the best course. I made a mistake and I deleted one and then it dropped everybody and I had to reactivate them.
Oh, yikes.
Which is
Yeah.
not what I wanted to do, but I was like, what is the first course of action? Should I promote the secondary to a primary before I make any changes to the primary? Would that be the better choice?
That probably would be in your case, that probably would be a good choice. As
Okay.
long as that secondary member that you're promoting, you can't guarantee that they're going to stay with the organization, but if they decide, at some day they get ticked off and they click on remove me completely, then all those members underneath them are going to be dropped. So it's going to be a problem.
Right.
So that's why you generally try to find a responsible person at the organization who's going to be the primary. And whether it's an admin or if it's the accounts payable person or whoever it is, with some sort of, and it's hard to say permanence because nobody's permanent anymore, but.
Right. Because the situation we ran into is the primary at this point paid for the two secondaries to attend an event, but then she didn't pay for her membership. So the others were in a pending status. So it didn't, even though it showed that she made a payment under her name for $80 for these two registrants, it didn't show it showed they were paid, but they were still pending. So I couldn't
Oh,
get
the
it to
memberships
move.
are still pending.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I couldn't get the memberships to go active because
Sure.
the primary wasn't active, if that makes sense.
Yep.
With
Sure
her
does.
payment.
Yep.
So at that point, I would just eliminate that person.
Yeah, or yes, yeah, I would eliminate them.
Okay. And secondary question, do you see a problem when people are attending events if one member has fallen off, but their membership was still active through the end of the year and they wanted to attend an event? Can someone like swoop in and say, I'm going to take her spot without paying for membership?
Yeah, we don't currently have a way to handle that type of thing. If somebody's membership expires or they are no longer active, right? But when they registered, they were active.
Correct.
So they are still going to be registrants. So then it's one of those tough situations, but we don't have a way to handle that.
But I would probably go under the primary and remove those secondary members from her, underneath her, right?
Yeah, if they're not, see, we try to put as much of the responsibility on the primary as possible when it comes to
Sure.
membership, because they know better than anybody who is active and who isn't. So if somebody has left their organization, then it's up to them to remove them from their membership while they're in there editing and doing some other changes. And then when they renew, they have the option to do that again to make sure that everybody they're renewing is a current active employee of their organization and in that role and whatever. So it rather than you do it, my preference would be to put the onus on them, but
Okay.
if if you get stuck in a situation, and I've done it myself, where they say, I don't know how to do it, can you do it for me? And then you, out of the kindness of your heart, you decide to do it, then it's going to be up to you.
Then you end up doing it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Hey, Gary, you have your hand up.
Hello, sorry for joining late. I was on another call, but I just want to give a shout out to Michael and Ronnie. Thank you so much. This is Gary O. Chavez, president of the New Mexico Public Procurement Association, and we are up and running as of today.
Sweet.
And it looks great. Thank you so much to Michael and Ronnie for all your work, all your effort on this. I know it was a pain, but we are good to go. So thank you very much.
Hey,
You're very,
all
very
right.
welcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Happy to do it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We're excited. We're excited.
Does anyone else have a question to ask Michael? Any questions? Michael, did you want to jump in maybe to the business directory? And then
Yes,
if
I
people
really do.
have questions, there you go. We can go from there.
This is something that I think it's underlooked because, well, I underlook it sometimes. So if we go to control panel and go to the people tab, you have this thing called the business directory. And the business directory is, think of it like the yellow pages, but in digital format. So you basically create some categories and types, so you have business categories and business types that are all related to your particular business. The ones that are built into the system, obviously, you're probably not going to have anybody in arts and crafts or beauty and fragrances. So we can turn off the system categories. If we go into options, we're also going to say we are not going to use the system categories. So we're going to turn those off as well. But we also have to say what member types are going to be able to create business directory entries. So it could be a co-op member, could be a regular membership, it could be probably not a student, maybe not a transitional or a retired. So, but maybe an honorary. So we click save. And what we have to do is we have to create business categories. So in your case, it could be, I'll just use education as example. And then you have to create business types under those categories. And under education, we're going to create university, college, or let's say K through 12. Or I don't know, what would be another one? I don't know what would another example would be, but regardless. So let's say we've created those now. And so we're going to go into somebody's profile. And let's say for the city of Boca Raton, and I know it doesn't apply, but they have this new option called Business Directory. And they click on it and they select those categories that they belong to. And then they add them, and they can add multiple ones. So you can have as many, you can have up to 5 by default, but. And then when we go in and look at that record, I can remember who this is so that I don't, it's Robin Annexstein. Okay. So I'm going to click save. Now, when we go to the business directory and look at it, we can do a search, and now we can see under education which organizations and who belongs to those organizations. And then you can do searches. There's a lot of different ways to search. So it's really a great resource that I think it's kind of overlooked.
That's a great idea, Michael. Can you explain the allowed member types again?
Yeah. Basically, you determine what member types are going to be allowed. Oh, yeah, I know. Shoot, I have to select one. Okay. Basically, you determine what member types are going to be allowed to participate in the business directory.
Oh, okay.
So you probably don't want students to participate in the business directory, and you may not want transitional members to participate in the business directory, or retired members. So
sure. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And then you can also determine the search criteria. Most of your chapters are probably in a relatively tight area, so maybe no more than 100 or 200 miles. But if you're in a much closer density like Atlanta, then you might want to limit it to maybe 50 miles, for the search radius. And then people can actually search for people within that radius. And the nice thing is that you can integrate interests. So if you have specific interests where let's say they're in K through 12, they're in procurement for K through 12 educational institutions or whatever their thing is. And they can have interests that show that they're interested in purchasing, paper goods and things like that. Maybe you guys are going to talk about doing some sort of cooperative purchasing. I don't know. I'm not really sure, how you guys handle that. But then you could actually include that in the search too. So then people can search the business directory for those organizations who are in K through 12 who also are interested in paper goods, in some sort of cooperative paper goods purchasing or something like that. Does that make sense? Because you get to determine what interests are. So you get to determine how you group these people together.
Gary, you have your hand up?
Yeah, we actually have a question in New Mexico, and I don't know if you want to, if we need to discuss this offline, but we're starting to get members register for our conference, and we had one register and click on to pay by credit card, and nothing came up on it.
That's why, because your max payment is set to 0.
Ah,
You got to change that to something greater than 0.
okay. See, there you go.
Yep.
We'll work on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other
I have a
questions?
question. Yes, I have one going back to the business directory thing. So I was following along and maybe missed something. So we can select categories, we can create categories that the businesses will go into, and then the people we have given permission to set up business information can create, like, here's an entry for City of Boca Raton. And then did you say something about we can connect our members who are part of that group to it? Or did I misunderstand that?
Basically, well, I'm not sure I understand the question.
So you said it's basically like creating a yellow pages, right? So
Right.
if we want to set up a business directory, essentially, let's say I'm given the permission as an admin to create an entry, and we create the categories that you showed us how we can create those different categories like K-12 under education and stuff like that.
Right.
Basically, then we're just creating like an address book entry. We're just defining, here's the name and the phone number and the contact person. And then that's just searchable. Is that?
It does. It becomes searchable. So basically, then you would make it available on your menu if you wanted people to be able to look at it,
Okay.
to be able to search it. But right now, it's not on the menu. So basically, we're going to, just for playing around with it, I'm going to switch to view mode and then click on business directory. So now I'm looking at it from a user perspective. So basically, this particular member is with the city of Boca Raton, and I chose K through 12 and University College for their business types. And then I can see the details of their information, their contact information. I can go to their website if they have a website defined on their business listing, and I can email them if they have their email address on their business listing. But the cool thing is that in this particular case, you have two different listings. You have your standard member directory listing, which is what members see about other members. But then they also have a business directory listing, which is completely separate. So you can have different information in here. You probably are going to want the same contact information, but now you can also include phone, fax, any social accounts that are related to your business. You can put in a description of your business, and what are some of the features? Why would somebody want to be part of that business? Or
Okay.
reach out to you.
So like for the example, you basically set up, here is information about an organization that happens to be members of our chapter, but you didn't like pull it by connecting it to something in the website. You basically just put in their information and created that yellow pages entry.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
The member themselves has the ability to go into their own profile, and they're going to see this option here, business directory.
Okay.
Once, assuming that they're under the member type that is allowed, which is regular membership in this case. Remember how we configured the business directory to only allow certain member types? So as long as their member type is in one of those included member types, they're going to see this new option.
Okay. So it's not doing any kind of like connecting them digitally together inside the profiles. You're basically just making an entry in a searchable database for that company. Right.
Behind the scenes, there's a lot of connecting going on because these are actually stored in completely separate databases within our platform. But yeah, you don't see it. But the nice thing is that when you go to find a member is searching the standard member directory. So if I look for that member, oops. What was their number? What was it, Boca? So I get all the members it was annexed time. It was this person. So if I click on their record, it's going to take me to that same business directory listing. And I can see the categories that they're in, and I can see their contact information.
And Michael, this is only for members.
Correct.
So
this is only for members. Yep.
Okay.
So as an example, let's say our chapter decides that we want to sort of preload this list. We would basically be going through and creating an entry for every entity that has members with us. But then when we create that entry, then when you search up that person who's with that group and you click on the business directory, it will connect it. They don't have to make the entry. The entry just has to exist.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm understanding a little better now. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. You're welcome. It's really a great feature, I think. And then, when you get to a point where you're ready to launch it to everybody, then you're going to want to add it to the menu. So you would go to website menus, and then you determine, let's say you're going to put in member resources, and you're going to put the business directory in member resources, and then it's going to be there. I'm doing a lot of work to Southeast Florida. Sorry about that. Let me undo some of this.
Anyone else have a question? Want to cover mailing list categories and how to add people?
I'm going to add one more thing here. So I'm going to go with, I'm going to add a new category, and this is probably the more common one. Municipal, state, oops, federal, and I'm sure there's others too. But just so that I can clean up her record, because I can't leave it with no business types. I'm sure she would appreciate that.
I don't want to get in trouble.
Right, yeah. Okay, so now she is legit. Okay, now mailing list categories. Mailing list categories are a great way to be able to group people together. And if you go to the communications tab and go to mailing list categories, you'll see the list of the ones that are already out here. And the ones they've already added some. This is brilliant. But basically there's a set of ones that are automatically included. That's ad hoc form user, collectible owner, contracts, donor, or not contracts, but donor, event registrants, gift purchaser. So these are all ones that are kind of just built into the system. You'll want to add some though, because event registrants is great, but let's say you want to reach specifically people who went to your annual conference, and isolate them for a specific emailing. So you will put in annual conference, and the beauty is that you can actually have multiple annual conference ones, and you can say, well, I want to know who went to the conference in 2023. Click on save. And then when we go to events, and when you're setting up the event, it's important to do it when you first set up the event. Under registration and fees, you choose the mailing list category. So you'd want to add them to annual conference 2023. I'm not going to mess with their conference, but that's what you would do. And then anytime anybody registers, whether members, non-members, whatever, they're going to be added to that mailing list category. So later, let's say, 2 months or 3 months before 2024's conference comes around, you can email that group of people and say, hey, we loved seeing you at last year's conference, register now. And it's a great way to get some repeat business for conferences and things like that. So there's another way, and there's a lot of ways you can contribute to or add people to mailing list categories. So if we go, this is one of the new features in People Manager, and I kind of covered it last time, but when you do a search, let's say you're going to search for the city of Boca, there's this new actions button, and you can add all of these people to an existing mailing list. And when you do that, you just choose the mailing list. So that's a nice, easy way to do it. But you can also, let's say people are donors, and you go to the money tab and go to the donations module, and we create a general fund. In this fund, you can also create a mailing list category. In this case, it's called donor. So anyone who donates, whether the members or non-members, are going to be added to that mailing list category, so that when you set up a new emailing, you'll be able to identify them very easily as previous donors. And there's a lot of different functions for doing this. Like in the volunteering module, when you set up a volunteering activity, you can determine the mailing list category. In this case, by default, it's volunteer, but you can set it up for a special event. Maybe you're looking for volunteers for the annual conference 2023. So now you would create a new mailing list category called annual conference volunteer and add them to it. And that way you can email them all, and you can create an email blast and say, thank you so much for volunteering. Here's the last minute details before we all meet up at such and such location, blah, blah, blah. And then when it's all done, you can shoot them all an email and say, hey, meet me at Chili's, and we'll have a volunteer dinner or something like that. So there's just so many ways to use mailing list categories. And that's another thing that I think is easily overlooked. Pretty much almost any module has a mailing list category. Oh, the other thing about mailing list categories is that you can, this show me on AdMe screen. None of these are set for yes. So I'm just going to choose this one and say, show me on Add Me. And this is only for demonstration purposes. But then when somebody subscribes, they have a new checkbox down here, so they can check how they want to be interested in your organization. Maybe they only want to be added to a mailing list, and get information, or maybe they want, information about being a member. So maybe you'd have another mailing list category called interested in membership. It's kind of how you want to do it, but it's really nice because you now can give them some control about which mailing list categories they add themselves to. Makes sense?
Very
And then
cool.
if you ever want to see who's in a mailing list, if you go to your chapter tab and go to data export, we can go to people and say we want to, where was it? There's members and members in a mailing list category. All right, where is it?
Is it under communications?
Oh, maybe. Oh, there it is. Yeah, good call. Members and non-members in a selected mailing list category, and then you choose your mailing list category. And then you can export them. And you can see who's in it. And then you can say, oh, well, this person really doesn't belong in that category. And then you just go back to People Manager. And in People Manager, you find the member, click on this little colored box, and that's their mailing list categories. And you can say, well, they really don't belong in this one, but they do belong in interested persons, So you still have some control over what mailing list category you put them in individually. I think that I love mailing list categories. I think they're just so powerful.
Yeah.
And then when you go in and you create an emailing, let's see if we can find a draft here. And go to distribution lists. You can create members in a selected category. And then you create your distribution list for the people in that category. And then you would do the same thing if you wanted non-members in the category too, because that's another option. Non-members in a selected category. Oops. There. So I think it's a great tool. Are there any other questions?
Well, thank you, Michael. Greatly appreciated. Since we have
Yeah.
no more questions, I guess we will wrap up for the evening.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, everyone. We will do this again on the second Tuesday of October. So I will send out a reminder. We will also have, Michael will send me the video. It takes a little while, but I will post it to
does.
our
Yep.
YouTube channel. I can send out to all of you. I actually posted it in chat, the link to our YouTube channel, if you'd like the recording. So, everybody have a good 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Michael. Thanks,
Michael.
Ronnie.
You're very welcome.
Thank
Thank you for joining
you.
us.
Thank you much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.